Have you ever wondered how much money you need to make in order to afford a $400,000 home, a $750,000 home, or a $1 million home? I'm here to tell you exactly how to do that, whether you're a medical resident, attending, or using a conventional loan. My name's Becky McCulley, your Charlotte real estate expert, and I'm sharing all the financial details you need to think about before you even start your home search. Before you start house hunting, there's a crucial step that you need to take, and it's looking at the current market. The market in Charlotte currently is seeing about an average home price of $440,000. Technically, anything under 6 months worth of inventory on the market is a seller's market, but I would say it's really a little bit more balanced. I don't think any one party, sellers or buyers, has the upper hand right now. The market has definitely shifted over the past 6 months. I mean, we're coming off of a presidential election. That generally makes people a little uncomfortable and they sit on the sidelines a little bit more. Now we're starting to see a little bit more stability, and especially combined with the spring market, people are really coming out. We're starting to see multiple offers on certain properties. People are actively searching and people are talking about their plans to buy a house. There's a sneaky expense that most home buyers don't even think about, and it can cost you hundreds every single month. There are certain expenses that you're going to incur on a monthly basis and some that are going to be on an annual or even several times throughout the year. And so it's really important to understand what those are, when they're going to be due, and how you can budget for them appropriately. One of the things that you need to be prepared for are general upkeep of maintenance and repairs on a home. The general guidance is that you should budget about 1% of the property value each year. For example, if you buy a $400,000 house, 1% of that is going to be roughly $4,000. When you break that down, if you want to set aside money each month, you're looking at probably around $333, and you can put that aside in a savings account so that then when those expenses do come up, you're prepared. One of the other annual expenses that you're going to have are property taxes and homeowners insurance. Property taxes, for the most part, most people have these included in their escrow payments with their mortgage payment. So they're automatically paying a portion of the estimated tax bill every month when they pay their mortgage company. However, if you don't have your property taxes escrowed, they're going to become due generally the latter part of the year. In order to budget for that, using last year's tax bill is a really good estimate. Divide that by 12 and you're going to come up with, hey, I need to save at least this much every month so that whenever the property tax bill is due, I will have enough funds to cover it. Let's talk about some of the monthly expenses that you're going to incur. So you're going to have homeowners insurance, which is very similar to your car insurance, where they're going to give you either a 6-month or a 1-year policy, but it's paid every month. Then you're going to have utilities. You're going to have electricity. If you have gas, you're going to also have gas. You're going to have trash and water and sewer expense as well. Those are the biggest things that you need to think about when you are budgeting for home expenses. But you also have to think about things like pest control and lawn maintenance, because a lot of times people are not doing that themselves these days. And then you of course have to also budget for any repairs, home projects that you want to do to make the space feel like yours. Taxes in Charlotte, you're going to have a sort of combined tax rate of City of Charlotte taxes and Mecklenburg County taxes. Currently for 2025, that rate is about 0.83%. What that is going to be applied towards the tax assessed value, and that's going to be what your annual tax bill is. Now, there's an additional roughly $150 that's added onto that for sewer and trash expense, but that's just a fixed expense. So you can really easily estimate what your property tax bill is going to be. A monthly expense that is really, really important, but most homeowners forget about, is home insurance. Now that home prices have gone up, the cost of rebuilding a home, if something unfortunate were to happen, is going up also. And so you need to make sure that you have the proper level of home insurance coverage. Depending on that property's claim history, it could be a significant cost that you incur every month. So how much can you afford as a medical resident, as an attending, or as a conventional buyer? Let's break down the numbers. First, let's look at what it might be like for a medical resident to purchase a home here in Charlotte. One of the key things to know for medical residents is the only type of loan that you will qualify for is a doctor loan or a physician loan. One of the easiest ways to calculate this is to say, if I want to buy a $400,000 house, how much income do I need to show every year in order to qualify for that? So what you would do is you would first say, okay, the purchase price is $400,000. Then what you're going to do is you're going to calculate what the estimated principal and interest payment would be on that. Assuming about a 6.25% interest rate for 30 years, principal and interest payment on that would be $2,463. Then the other thing that you need to factor in are property taxes and home insurance. Property taxes are pretty easy to estimate. If you assume that the tax value is going to be the same as the purchase price, then you are going to divide that by 100. So if the purchase price is $400,000, you divide that by 100, then you're going to get $4,000. Then you have to multiply that by the tax rate, which for 2025 in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County is going to be 8312. So that is going to give you the total amount of annual property taxes. Then you want to divide that by 12 so that you know what your monthly property tax budget is. So for this one, it comes out to be around $277. Then you need to factor in home insurance. Home insurance is one of those things where there is no rough calculation at all. They don't give you any idea how to estimate it. What I've done on a $400,000 house is I have estimated roughly about 80 cents per $1,000 of value, and that's going to come out to a monthly cost of around $267. And I think that's a fair estimate for a $400,000 house. The higher the purchase price, obviously, the more expensive the home insurance gets. When you combine that and you have your principal and interest payment, plus estimated property taxes and home insurance, you come out to a total monthly housing payment of $3,007. Then you have to say, all right, most lenders are going to require that you have no more than a 45% debt to income ratio. That basically means the total amount of debt compared to the total amount of your income, your monthly debt can be no more than 45% of your monthly income. We're going to apply that 45% debt to income ratio to the $3,007 monthly housing payment, because that is essentially, you want to make sure that is no more than 45%. Then that tells you your monthly gross income before taxes, benefits, anything like that comes out is that you're going to need $6,681. Multiply that by 12 and you're going to come up with your annual gross income, which is $80,176. That is the amount of income that you need to show in order to qualify for a $400,000 house if you do not plan on putting any money down. Most residents who are starting here in Charlotte are generally making around $70,000 a year. So what this tells me is if you are a medical resident and you are buying solo, you are going to have to look at a house that's a little bit less than $400,000, or you're going to need to put some money down. And so there's a lot of ways that we can calculate how much you would need and all of that. But that is generally how you are going to figure out, okay, how much income do I need in order to afford this level of house? Now, another way to look at it is to say, I know what my annual income is. What is the maximum payment that I can afford? What you can do is you can say, if I'm making $70,000 a year, divide that by 12 to get your gross monthly income. So in this situation, that would be $5,833. Then you need to multiply that by 0.45. Again, it's that 45% debt to income ratio. That is going to tell you that 45% of that monthly gross income is the most that you're going to be able to pay for housing. So in this situation, that comes out to be $2,625. Then what you have to do is to say, do I have a car payment? Do I have student loans? Do I have minimum credit card payments? All of that. Whatever that minimum payment due is every month, you have to back that out. So if I assume that my max monthly payment is $2,625 and say I have a $500 a month other payments, whether that's car payment, student loans, whatever, you're looking at a monthly max payment of $2,125. That's another way to look at it and say, okay, this is what my monthly payment could be. And then you can say, realistically, what does that payment get me? Like in terms of backing into a home price number. So say you're no longer a medical resident and now you're an attending. Let's look at what your buying power is. You still qualify for a doctor or physician loan. Depending on the home price, you can still qualify for no PMI and no down payment and still buy a house, okay? So what does that look like? So let's assume you're gonna buy a house that is $750,000. You're not gonna put any money down. Your principal and interest payment on that, again, assuming a 6.25% rate on a 30-year loan is going to be $4,618. Then we need to factor in property taxes. Again, we're going to multiply the current 2025 tax rate towards the tax assessed value divided by 100. That's going to give us an estimate of $520 per month. Then we need to factor in home insurance. Again, for this one, I'm estimating a general amount because there is no accurate way to estimate home insurance. Let's say it's $500. So then we have to say, okay, I can only have 45% debt to income ratio. So what I'm going to do is take 1 divided by 45%, and that gives you 2.22. That's the number that you need to multiply the housing payment by to figure out what your monthly gross income needed is. So in this situation, we're looking at $12,528 is your monthly income needed to purchase a $750,000 home with no money down. When you annualize that, that would mean you need an annual gross income of $150,330. Now, one of the things that I always caution people is here, this looks like, hey, I could only make $150,000 and I can buy a $750,000 house. Technically, yes, you can. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I like this rule of 3. If you make $150,000, you should be looking at a house that's 3 times that amount, which is $450,000. The reason I say that is that you're going to have other expenses. All of these calculations are based on your gross income. It does not account for taxes, health insurance, 401k, any other benefits that you have. Another really good thing to do once you run through these calculations is to say, okay, if my total housing payment is going to be $5,638, let me look at what my pay stubs show. What is my take-home pay? And generally, you're going to get paid twice a month, so take that and multiply it by 2. Assume that your actual take-home pay is $8,000 a month. I want to compare that $8,000 to the housing payment of $5,638. So you have roughly $2,300 extra left over after paying your housing every month to cover all of your other expenses. Gas for your car, utilities, any spending money, any savings, those types of things. So you have to really say, what does my lifestyle look like and what am I willing to do? I might say, I'm willing to be what they call house poor and say, I'm gonna have to give up some of my luxuries and not go shopping as much, not go on, as many vacations or as nice of a vacation, because I really wanna spend the next 2 or 3 years building my equity in this house. And I know that my income is gonna go up substantially, so I'm willing to make that sacrifice. And just for comparison, say you are an attending and you don't want to get a doctor's loan. You're like, okay, cool, I can qualify for a conventional loan. How does that compare? What does that look like? Say you're going to do a conventional loan and you're going to buy a $750,000 house. Let's assume that you're going to put down a minimum of 5% down. That comes out to $37,500. So you need to have that cash available as a down payment at the time you submit an offer. So then that is going to tell you that you're going to have a loan balance of $712,500. So when you calculate the principal and interest payment on that for a 30-year loan at 6.25%, that comes out to $43.87. Then you have to factor in, because you're putting less than 20% down, you're going to have what they call PMI, or private mortgage insurance. Depending on your credit is going to impact what that amount is every month. So I am just using a rough calculation of roughly 0.46% of the loan amount. So in this situation, that is around $273 a PMI. Then you have to factor in property taxes. So on this particular property, the property taxes are not going to be any different regardless of which loan you take. So these are still also going to be $520. The same thing with homeowners insurance. It doesn't fluctuate based on the type of loan that you get, so we're still going to estimate $500. Then we need to apply our 45% debt to income ratio and say our total housing payment is $5,680. What does that mean my monthly gross income needs to be? That comes out to about $12,621. When you annualize that and multiply it by 12, you come out to $151,456. That compared to using a doctor loan where you only need to make $150,330. However, you have to show up with $37,500 of cash if you use a conventional loan versus a doctor loan where you're not required to put anything down. So as you can see, the income requirement between the two is very small. We're talking $1,000, but the amount of cash that you have to bring to the table is very different. 0 versus $37,500. Now you know the real formula for determining how much house you can afford. If this video helped you from making a 6-figure mistake, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video.